Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to be having a look at how to play all 5 positions of the minor pentatonic scale. I'll also show you where you can find the root notes in each of the 5 patterns, and I'll also show you which fingers I recommend you use to play the patterns with. Now all of the patterns in this are going to be done in the key of A minor, and in a previous video I showed you how you can take a pattern and change the key, so I won't go over that in this video, but I will leave a link in the description so that if you want to know how to change the key of any of these patterns, if you go back to that video, you'll be able to see how that is done. So what we'll do now then is we'll go in for a close-up and have a look at pattern number 1. Okay then, so the first pattern, which is also known as the E form, goes like this. Okay, so we have 5-8 on the low E string, then 5-7 on the A string, 5-7 on the D string, 5-7 on the G string, 5-8 on the B string, and then 5-8 on the top E. Okay, and your root notes, which in this case are going to be A's, are going to be here on the 5th fret of the E string, the 7th fret of the D string, and then the 5th fret of the top E string. And notice when I'm playing this, I was using my first finger on all of the 5s, and then I was using my little finger whenever it was the 8th fret, on my third finger whenever it was the 7th fret, which is the way most people do it. It can be a good idea though sometimes to use your third finger on the 8th fret, particularly on the B string and the top E, especially if you want to do any string bending, because it's a lot easier to bend with your third finger than it is with your little finger, and you can get a nice clean bend out of your third finger. Okay, then the second pattern, which is also known as the D form, goes like this. Okay, so for this we're starting on the 8th fret of the low E string. I'm using my second finger here. Then we go up to the 10th fret. Then on the A string it's 7-10. Then 7-10 again on the D string, then 7-9 on the G, 8-10 on the B, and then 8-10 on the top E. And for this, your root notes are going to be found here on the 7th fret of the D string, and here on the 10th fret of the B string. And notice again my choice of fingering. So to begin with, I started with my second finger, going on to my little finger there. You can use your first and your third finger there, of course, and then go on to your first, and probably best to use your little finger there. But it's always a good idea, rather than playing the second or the fourth finger, which you could do if you wanted to sort of stay in your box shape, it's much easier to go down to play the B and the top E strings with your first and third fingers. Okay, then the third pattern, otherwise known as the C form, goes like this. Okay, so this is going to be 10 to 12 on the low E, 10 to 12 on the A, 10 to 12 on the D, then 9 to 12 on the G, 10 to 13 on the B, and then 10 to 12 on the top E. Okay, your root notes for this then are to be found here on the 12th fret of the A string, and the 10th fret of the B string. Okay, and again, notice my choice of fingering on this one. Because we're low down here, where the frets are closer together, I'm pretty much just using my 1st and 3rd finger throughout. You could, especially if you're playing this particular pattern lower down, you could use your 1st and 3rd finger till you get to the G string, and then use your 1st and little finger, and then again 1st and your little finger on the B string. Okay, now we come to the 4th pattern, otherwise known as the A form, and that sounds like this. Okay, so for this we're going to play 12 to 15 on the E string. Then we're going to play 12 to 15 on the A string. Then we've got 12 to 14 on the D string. 12 to 14 on the G, then 13, 15 on the B, then 12 to 15 on the top E. Okay, and the root notes are to be found here on the 12th fret of the A string, and here on the 14th fret of the G. Okay, and for fingering, you can, because again we're quite close by, you can get away with playing with just your 1st and 3rd finger if you want. I generally use my 1st finger and my little finger on the E and the A strings, then use my 1st and 3rd on the D and the G, and then again here on the B, just coming in one, before returning to my 1st and my 4th on the top E. Okay, then finally we come to the 5th pattern, otherwise known as the G form. Okay, that sounds like this. Okay, for this one then we have 15 to 17 on the low E, 15 to 17 on the A, 14 to 17 on the D, 14 to 17 on the G, 15 to 17 on the B, and 15 to 17 on the top E. And for this one, your root notes will be found on the 17th fret of the low E, the 14th fret of the G, and the 17th fret of the top E. Okay, and fingering wise, I generally just use my 1st and my 3rd finger throughout. I find that easiest. If you were playing this at the other end of the guitar where the frets are further apart, you could go 1, 3, 1, 3, then 1, 4, 1, 4, before 1, 3, 1, 3 again. That would make sense. But I generally just use my 1st and 3rd finger throughout on this scale. Okay, so I will just note for completeness that now that we've moved down here to the 17th fret, you can actually find pattern 1 again, starting here on the 17th fret. And you will also find the 5th pattern, the G pattern, down here on the 3rd fret.